It's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated. It's true. It's not hate to say that the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in this country, came up with a hypocritical desegregation decision 9 years ago, which they haven't enforced yet. That's not hate. That's true.
Your question is having said when an airliner crashed with a number of white people on board, but you were glad it happened.
The white race in this country collectively are guilty of these crimes that our people are suffering from collectively. And therefore they would suffer some collective disaster, collective grief. And when that plane crashed in France with 130 white people off.
No one man should withstand the weight of the world on his shoulders that die when it's over. Ain't no global warming, the world getting colder. Ain't nobody doing shit, they taking our culture. Wake up and see y'all, ain't no balance on one side of the seesaw. We at war with Esau, but ain't nobody down with us. My niggas get up. I know what it's like to wake up fucked up. I know what it's like when the pain cut deep. You can't get on your feet and you just wanna stay asleep. When the shit too much, a nigga needs a
It's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated. It's true. It's not hate to say that the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in this country, came up with a hypocritical desegregation decision 9 years ago, which they haven't enforced yet. That's not hate. That's true.
Your question is having said when an airliner crashed with a number of white people on board, but you were glad it happened.
The white race in this country collectively are guilty of these crimes that our people are suffering from collectively. And therefore they would suffer some collective disaster, collective grief. And when that plane crashed in France with 130 white people off.
No one man should withstand the weight of the world on his shoulders that die when it's over. Ain't no global warming, the world getting colder. Ain't nobody doing shit, they taking our culture. Wake up and see y'all, ain't no balance on one side of the seesaw. We at war with Esau, but ain't nobody down with us. My niggas get up. I know what it's like to wake up fucked up. I know what it's like when the pain cut deep. You can't get on your feet and you just wanna stay asleep. When the shit too much, a nigga needs to roll up. And all you got is this money and this still ain't enough. To live is to survive, gotta hustle to stay alive. My girl don't understand, I can see that look in her eyes. So not the trouble of soul, I pacify with lies. I inflict the pain and wipe the tears of her cries. Baby, I know you hurting, apologies in advance. I just pray to God that he give me another chance. Trying to make it to heaven, I got my hell of a plan. Dancing with the devil makes me a hell of a man. Yeah, I'm trying to be a better man, but my nigga down south won't put me up 200 hands. He told me if I needed him, put that shit in my hands. Is that a curse or a blessing, or do I see at the end?
We learned that 120 of them were from the state of Georgia, the state that my own grandfather was a slave in. Why, to me, it couldn't have been anything but an act of God, a blessing from God, and I frankly sincerely pray for similar blessings from him.
There's levels to this, and I said it like I said it because I wanted to hit. I give credit where it's relevant, we better than them. It's evident we set the precedence to elevate men, but we'll never know the evidence killing other black men. And how we supposed to trust the hand we eat off if we hand fed the very poison we feed off. We don't even need all this extra shit they let us get. It only hold us back from our excellence. Let us all get together, ball, invest in shit, the true value of life. Love my children and wife, love to all of my niggas who can't be free for the fight. R.I.P. all my niggas who passed on from this life. I love my brothers off the strength, whether he wrong or he right. Let your woman have that glory, baby, I'm wrong, you right. The true glory is through God and how I'm shining my light. Bust down Cartiers to see my sins in the night. Now what I call my darkest hours all depends on the price. I just had an 8 mistakes, I seen men become mice. I let my pen speak my mind, the only way I think twice. All that I sacrifice, I shall exceed this life.
You don't get freedom, people. Freedom is never safeguarded. Anyone who is depriving you of freedom isn't deserving of a peaceful approach by the ones who are being deprived of their freedom.
Mercy, mercy, Lord have mercy. Why niggas hate me? Show me no mercy. Brother forsake me, woman don't hurt me. Mercy, mercy, Lord have mercy. Okay, walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that, see me blow. Slow, you don't hear no action. Put a body on me tongue wide. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that see me glow. Put up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on the gun. Why? Mercy, mercy, the wicked have no mercy. So I gotta stay with a blick of niggas be thirsty. Quicker than the flick of a picture, niggas could murk me. Catch you with your dick in these bitches and do you dirty. But I'm God body, I put that shit on the jersey. No weapon formed against me shall hurt me. Go to war on your turf, I put you under the surface. Mac 10s, Mac 11s, call a nigga Bernie. Open up the chest of a nigga, them bitches burning. Living by the scripture that's written and it's the sermon. I see that window closing, can't be playing in the curtains. I ain't playing like the circus, I'm a man with a purpose. Can't be laying with the servants, keep the squares out your circle. You ain't standing on your word, what kind of man are you? X you out, cross you over, I had to sham guide you. Can't stop a nigga drive the beat, they can't guard you. Hell have no fury compared to what God do. I'm a whole gangster, my nigga not partial. 38 special, this nigga think he's special. I go ahead depart you, I ain't finna argue. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that semi blow. Run, pump, 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 pump. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on the gun. Why? Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that semi glow. Run, pump, 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 pump. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on the gun. Why? Nigga, all that shit you said ain't felt. I don't take you as serious as you take yourself. Niggas steady playing, better play where it's safe. Never know who I'm locked in with around your way. I don't like no bad energy around my space. The label good green, nigga, what's good, you straight. Niggas talking crazy, that's a big mistake. Dreadlock driller, man, it's twisted fate. Had to spin that nigga around like 360 ways. You don't know how I get out, fully, I've been on edge. I can't let that slide, don't be that guy. Red Bull gives you, my little nigga, they lie. This desert eagle gives you wings once I let that bitch fly. This eagle eye vision on this level of mine. Give you an evil eye vision, red beam on the 9. Even I've seen evil eyes still cry. Don't leave an eyewitness on the scene of the crime. Seeing is believing, you ain't seen nothing yet. Switch scenes like the seasons or a scene on the set. You think it's sweet cause you breathe until you see what's next. Okay, walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that semi blow. Pump, 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 pump. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on the gun. Why? Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that semi glow. Pump, 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 pump. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on the gun. Why? Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that semi glow. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on the gun. Why? Mercy, mercy, Lord have mercy. You don't hear that semi glow. Show me no mercy. Brother forsake me, woman them hurt me. Mercy, mercy, Lord have mercy.
Shalom, what's good? We back. What's good? Shalom, shalom. What's cracking? I know you see the title, right? The people of Edom, right? You know, we're going to get into it, you know, but of course, giving all praises to the Most High God, Yahweh, and we do so in His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, who the world mistakenly and commonly knows as Jesus Christ, right? We're going to get right into it, just like that. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, so yeah, we're gonna get into it. And like I said, the people of Edom, Esau, the people of Perdition, right? So yeah, we're gonna get into it. So yeah, you know, of course, our stance is, because we can back it up biblically, prophetically, archaeology, history, backs up that what we know as the so-called European, the so-called Caucasian today is descend from the people of Edom, right? So, and history and all that stuff backs it up. So, and we're gonna get into it, because a lot of times we get into these different names, these biblical names, these what they call biblical nations, and some people are under the assumption that these nations that was created is no longer with us, but not understanding the nuances in in society and how people change names and stuff. They change their names and so forth, and and throughout history, they people call themselves many things, but God at that time when He created these nations, their biblical nations, these people descended from the people of Edom. So, let's start with Genesis 25 real quick. Just real quick. Because understanding who Esau is, he's Jacob's paternal twin. And some people, have a hard time understanding that you can have, because there's something called paternal twins, we know that. You can have children that's, what they call twins, but don't necessarily look alike. And they call it paternal. So in the case of Esau, he was what we'll call the progenitor of the so-called Caucasians. So he came out, like that. And so a lot of people will kind of have a problem with it, don't understand how genetics works sometimes, and understanding that, rare cases like that do happen. You have mutations and stuff like that, and understanding the genetics of, our people, and the melanin that we possess, we're capable of making many different shades of colors, textures of hair, eyes, whatever, etc. Right? You have a people in Africa right now that never been conquered by Europeans, and they have blonde hair and blue eyes, dark skin, like me and you, right? So we have the genetics to make these different groups of people that we see, right? And genetics proves that also. So without getting into it, because I'm not no genetic scientist, but I do know that what the Bible say, and it says this. Let's start at Genesis 25 and 21. So it says, and Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren. So, Isaac wanted to get his woman pregnant, so he prayed to the Lord, please, Lord, let me have a baby with this woman, right? And the Lord was intrigued of him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. So then, so God blessed him. He heard Isaac's prayer, and he allowed Rebekah to get pregnant. And the children struggled together. So this is important to understand, right? So the children struggled together. So now, and how this plays out is she's having a tough pregnancy. Some women have hard pregnancies and stuff, have pains and stuff like that. So, it's tough. So it says, and the children struggled together within her. And she said, if this be so, why am I thus? So she like, if this be a blessing from God, I know, we prayed to get pregnant. I'm pregnant now, so that's a blessing. But dang, I'm having a hard pregnancy. It says, and she went to inquire of the Lord. So she went to go see a prophet, someone that can, give her some answers of what's going on. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, 2 manners of people. two manners of people shall be separated from thy bowels. So he's telling her, two nations are in your womb. So, of course, contextually, or literally, two, nations cannot be in a woman's womb. So what he's telling her is that out of these two men that is born, from you, they're going to be their own separate nations of people, right? Then it says, and two manners of people. So not only are they going to be two separate nations of people, they're going to have two different dispositions about themselves, two different mannerisms about themselves. We're not going to be alike, right? We're going to be opposite. And it says, and shall be separated from thy bowels. So, meaning we will not be together, we will not ever get along, because like it tells us in verse 22, and the children struggled together within her. So even from the time of conception, we were trying to unalive each other to be the first one to get that birthright, to have that right to be the son of God. But of course, prophetically, it was already promised to Jacob, right? But they was fighting, right? Because those people are violent, even in their little embryo stage, even in their little cellular atom, whatever the smallest thing that, even from a sperm cell, goddammit, shit. They was on that with us. And it says, and the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, two manners of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and one people shall be stronger than the other. And so one people is going to be stronger than the other. And we know who that one people is. We are, right? Athletically, physically, mentally, spiritually, all that cool stuff. Cause they tell us all the time, we could never go through what you went through. Like you guys are strong. You could never go through. That's the reason why, it's a phrase called strong black woman, right? Because one is not like the other, right? There was a time in history where these people almost perished because they didn't have enough potatoes to eat. They ran out of potatoes, and I think all they had was turnips, and it was rough for them. So, one people should be stronger than the other. And the elder should serve the younger. So this is a prophecy that she's getting, and this is, coming from the Most High. So it's telling her it should be separated. You're not going to never be together, like oil and water. Two different manners of people. They're not going to like the same stuff. They're going to be totally different. One people are going to be stronger than the other. And the elder, and if you understand how twins work, the first one that comes out, that one is considered the elder. Whether it's by a minute or a second or whatever, how it go. You know what I'm saying? They first one out, that's the elder. So, let's see who came out first. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau. So the first one who came out, name was Esau. And the prophecy we just read was the elder should serve the younger, right? So when the first one came out, his name was Esau. And he was red all over like a hairy garment, right? So he was red, right? And the red skin covered his body like a hairy garment. Cause some people, although he was hairy, don't get it confused, he was also hairy. He was red and hairy. He was like the first redhead, right? And the description is given us is like it says it's like the ram's coat. If you ever like in the ancient times they used to dye the ram's coat red, and it's real like furry. How ram's skin is, right? So that's the the description that they're when you look it up in the Hebrew, that's the description that is actually given. of like how a ram's coat is. And it says, and they call his name Esau because when you think about them, when they're born, they come out all pinkish red, right? Just like how Esau came out, all pink and red all over, right? So, and they call his name Esau, and Esau means to waste away, or he's wasted, or nothing, right? Because when he came out looking like a clear person, and it shocked Isaac because, at that time everybody was a people of color. So here come this clear guy, all right? And he like Esau. So when he said Esau, it wasn't like the baby come out and they like, oh, it's a boy. He's like, oh, okay, yeah, we're gonna name him Esau. No, Esau was like Esau. It was like, oh, Esau. It was a reaction to him seeing him, right? And that Esau means he's wasted, or how we say, he ain't shit. Right? He ain't gonna never be shit. He ain't gonna be shit. Right? That's what it means. Right? And his brother came out. Right? And after that, his brother came out. So then here comes Jacob. So they didn't describe Jacob because Jacob looked like everyone else. He wasn't an anomaly to a point where they had to, like, oh, this guy looked like this and that. Right? No. Right? So it says, and after that came out his brother, and he took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she buried him. Right? So then, here comes Jacob, right? Then it says, verse 27, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter. Right? And we got to understand this, the nature of these people. Because you got to understand, like, God is the creator, right? And understanding that he is the creator, he's like the, so he designs the body. He designs the mind, the spirit, all that cool stuff, right? So he created them to do exactly what they do. He gave them the spirit that they have, right? And that's just what it is. Because we got to look at it like this. Like a movie. You have a movie, and so you have the director, the producers, the people that, do the casting for the movie, right? That'll be the Most High. So you have the parts, that'll be the actors and stuff, right? So then people come in and they audition and all that stuff, then, but in this case, God is handing out the roles to different people. Like, okay, this is your role, right? And their role is to be the antagonist. That's just how it goes. Right? So let's get this real quick. So it's Romans 9:21. It says, have not the potter have power over the clay. So in this context, the Most High God is the potter. And a potter is someone that molds clay and make, fancy stuff out of it. They can make dishes, they can make, statues, they can make vases, they can make, an ashtray if they wanted to. But he says, have not the potter have power over the clay, meaning what God creates, he created to be whatever he wants it to be, right? So when it says that and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, right? And it says, have not the potter have power over the clay of one of the same lump to make one vessel to honor. So God can make the people of Jacob to honor his chosen people, his Israelites. Because out of Isaac, right? Out of the seed of Isaac, that one lump, it says, to make one vessel unto honor and another to dishonor. So he created them to be in that nature that they're in, that we've been seeing them living for the last 5,000 years, right? That's what they're going to do. There's no reforming. There's no, just have a talk and sit down and see how we can, iron things out and get. It's none of that. They are like that, and they can't help it, you know. Because have not the potter have power over the clay, of the same lump, to make one vessel unto honor, because God created one people to honor, to bless, to glorify, to give all this whole everything to, and the other to dishonor. Right? What if God willing to show his wrath, to make his power known? Right? Because this is how God makes his power known, because he works in the kingdom of man, like I tell you in Daniel 4, that God is in control of everything, right? So how does he make his power known? To endure much long suffering, the vessel of wrath fitted for destruction, right? So these people is his, how can I say it? It's like, they're like his expression of his anger, right? His, his wrath, right? And that's why they can, go out in the world as they do. Like David calls them the sword of the Most High, because they go out and they punish the world with their vicious tactics and their doings and how they, conduct themselves, right? And it says, what if God willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, to endure with much suffering the vessel of wrath fitted for destruction? Meaning, these people are bound to the down, as they say. That's why the video is titled The People of Perdition, because they are destined for destruction, because that's their end of their role. That's, their part in this great movie. To be the antagonist, to be the wicked, to be the devil, and then to be destroyed at the end. Right? That's the story. And nothing we can say or do about it, our emotions, all that stuff, because he said this. Have not the potter have power over the clay, of the same lump to make one vessel to honor and the other to dishonor? Right? What if God willing to show his wrath, to make his power known, and endure with much suffering, a vessel of wrath fitted for destruction? Right? That's who they are, fitted for destruction. And it's just like a rapper, right? Like, use this for example. Eminem, we all know Eminem. When Eminem was a teenager or young 20s or something, whatever the case may be, he had made that song about the black woman he was dating, and I guess she broke his heart, and, he got all sensitive about it, and made a nasty song about it, right? Now, of course, not making no excuse, but I'm just speaking on it as far as in the artist's standpoint. So him being a musical artist, the anger he had for her, he put it into that song, right? Painters sometimes, they might be angry. They might, paint a painting out of anger. They just throwing paint everywhere on it or whatever the case may be. And they created that out of anger. So that's what we're reading about. These people is the reflection of his anger, right? Then back over here. Esau was a cunning hunter, right? And that's why these people are so vicious and wicked and shrewd in their way, in their warfare. They come up with all these tactical ways to unalive people, right? They got, tactical nuclear missiles. They got all types of bombs. They got little writing pens that explode when they got little lasers that can point at you and make you have a stroke or a seizure, a brain aneurysm, or whatever how you say it, right? They got stuff, right? Master killers, right? They go in the woods, they put, deer piss on them, so they can catch bears and kill them, right? They do stuff like that, right? Very, they're just bloodthirsty, so bloodthirsty to the point where they have to create license and provisions on their killing, right? That's what hunting season is, and a hunting license. They have to put provisions on their own killing, because if not, they will kill everything. Because they are cunning hunters, men of the field. And Jacob was a plain a plain man dwelling in tents. So we like to chill and relax and just kick it, barbecue, nothing too heavy. We ain't trying to go skydiving and parachute and go down to the bottom of the ocean and all that stuff. We ain't trying to do all that. We just chilling, right? The word plain, just chilling, right? And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat the venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob decided pottage, and Esau came from the field, he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray. I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint. Right? So, he out there been hunting all day, haven't found anything. Right? So he comes like, all right, I'm hungry, man. Hey, let me get some of that food. So Jacob, he cooking up, we like to cook, right? Putting seasoned stuff, making that stuff look all nice and good, right? Esau coming in, he's smelling it, right? Because, they love to eat our food. So, he's smelling it like, hey, yo, let me get some of that. Jacob like, yo, my boy, chill out. It ain't even really all the way done yet, son. Right? So then he said, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore, his name was called Edom. Because, the soup that he was making, it was still red. It wasn't all the way fully cooked, and it was, and that's how he liked it, right? And to this day, they still eat their food medium rare or rare, blood dripping out of it. Some of them would, unalive an animal and just start eating the flesh right then and there. I knew this girl, not personally, but I knew of her. This Edomite woman that used to eat ground beef right out the package. Just crazy stuff. They do stuff like that, right? And don't get sick, amazingly, right? Yeah. Cast iron stomachs, as the old folks used to say. And it says, and Jacob says, sell me this day thy birthright. So Jacob like, yeah, I'll feed you, but give me your birthright. Give me that firstborn, title thing, right? And Esau said, behold, I am to the point to die, and what profit shall this birthright do to me? Right? So the little greedy, hungry bastard, he gave up his, of course, it was already prophesied that, Jacob would get the blessing. We just read it, right? And it says, God, hold on, we can get it too. We can get it, hold on. Find it. Boom. Okay, hold on. We'll come back to it though. But yeah, I was trying to find the account when the angel came to Rebekah and told her about her son getting the covenant. But as we still read here that the elder will serve the younger. Esau was the elder in that case. And let's see where we at. Boom. So he said, yeah, he sold his birthright, just for a piece of food, because he didn't care about the laws of God or the serving God and all that stuff, because he's godless. They don't believe in none of that stuff. They don't care about that stuff. And Jacob said, swear to me this day, and he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright unto Jacob. And then Jacob gave bread of the pottage of the linens, and he did eat and drink, and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright, right? So he despised it from the get-go, right? So, and because he despised the Most High God, right? He hated the Most High God from the get-go, right? Because he was created to be at odds with the Most High God. We just read it, right? And let's go up a little bit, right? Let's go back to Romans 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. 9. Let's start at Romans. Let's start at 10. And it says Romans 9 and 10, and it says, and not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived by one even by our father Isaac, right? Oh yeah, another quick point. I know I'm side jumping real quick. So this is the book of Romans, right? This is Paul, the author is Paul, right? So some people say, yeah, Paul is to the Gentiles. Well, this is a letter, right? We understand letters are written to an audience, to a person, right? And he said, our father Isaac, right? So he's not talking to what they call Gentiles, right? He's talking to Israelites that's living in Rome, right? But anyway, and not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived one even by our father Isaac, for the children not yet being born, right? So this is why we liken it to a movie and a casting, and the director, you know, whoever's in charge of the movie, just giving out parts to different people. Like, okay, you're going to get this part. Hey, I need you to read for this part. Hey, you read this part, right? And it says, for the children not yet being born. So they wasn't even born yet. God already decided that these are going to be the people he's going to hate forever. These going to be the bad guys, right? Because he's a visionary. He sees, you know, far in ahead of the future as he's creating this whole everything. He said, okay, these going to be my people. I'm going to create some other people over there. They're going to be over there. Then I'm going to make some other people, and they're going to be like real bad, and we're going to have to fight against them. And, you know, he's creating all this stuff, right? And he says, for the children not yet being born, neither having done any good or evil, right? So they haven't did anything yet, right? It's how he created them. That's the spirit he put in them, right? Because like it tells us right here real quick, in Habakkuk 2 and 4, it says, behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, right? So before they even did good or evil, when God created them, he created them with a not a upright spirit, to be wicked, right? Because like it tells us in Romans 9 and 21, it says this, it says, have not the potter have power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor and another to dishonor? He created them that way. Like it says over here, for the children not yet being born, neither having done anything, any good or evil, that the purpose of God according to the election might stand. Because according to the election was he was going to choose the Israelites regardless. And to make it legit, to make it fair, you know, he had to have oppositions, right? He had to, you know, and so it can play out. Prophecy has to happen. Certain things have to take place. So everything to be how the Most High God planned it to be. It says that the purpose of God according to the election might stand, not according to works, but him that calleth. So again, it's not anything they did or didn't do that makes them evil and makes God hate them. It's just because he created them to play that part on the earth. And that's just what they've been doing ever since they crawled out of the cracks and the holes of those mountains, right? Back over here. And boom, boom, boom. Let's get Genesis 36. Genesis 36 and 1. Now, these are the generations of Esau, who was Edom, right? So again, Esau and Edom are interchangeable. They are the same. So when the Bible says Esau, it's talking about the people of Esau, the nation. It's not talking about the man, right? And it's just jump down to 8, and it says, "Thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir." So Mount Seir is over there in Petra, Jordan, over there in the southern Levant area, over there. To a lot of people, it was a little, it wasn't as deserty, but it was still hot. They were still in the desert, right? And of course, they, a lot of people find it hard to believe that they definitely wasn't in Africa. We know that for sure. But they come from the southern Levant. That's where Mount Seir is located, over there in Petra, Jordan. And that's where they was located at. And they lived in those mountains, the mountain areas over there. So it says, "Thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir," and Esau is Edom, right? And it says, let's jump down to 11. And it says, just read 9. And it says, "And these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites." So again, the progenitor of the Edomites. In Mount Seir, these are the names of Esau, Eliphaz. But the father of the Edomites in Mount Seir. These are the names of Esau. These are the names of Esau's sons: Eliphaz, the son of Adah, the wife of Esau; Rubiel, the son of Bashemath, the wife of Esau. And the son of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Zepho, and Gotham, and Kenaz, right? And that's the thing too. And those people, who was that one? Yeah, Kenaz. And those people, right, are the progenitors of who we call Amalek, the so-called Jewish man, right? Let's find that. Hold up. Where that? Where that? Bear with me. I don't know why I can't never find that man's name. Hold on. 1 second. Oh, okay, verse 16. Here we go. So, because over here, let's read this one more time. So it says, sons of Eliphaz were Teman. Alexander the Great comes from Teman. Omar, Zohar, and Gathan, and Kenaz. Right, so now let's jump to 16. So the Duke of Korah, right, that's one of Esau's sons. So his grandsons are the Duke of Gotham, the Duke of Amalek. Right, now Amalek is, like I said, that's the so-called Jewish man. These are the dukes that came of Amalek in the land of Edom, right? So just understand these people real quick. Let's get a little historicity. Just a little something. Real quick. Just 1 second. Got this thing on. So lock me up. So just check this out real quick.
this feature, please make sure your app is running and can access the internet.
Check this out. Fair use, right?
Wanted to be like the other nations.
Fair use. Our thoughts and comments, right? Our thoughts and comments. Fair use on these clips. I was gonna play a few clips for us. Giving a little history of these people, right? Giving a little context. Fair use. Our thoughts and comments.
To bow down, and Israelites wanted to be like the other nations, and began to bow down and worship other gods, and sinned against the Most High. Thus the curses fell on them, as prophesied in Deuteronomy 28 verse 68. Unbelievable how the book of Lamentation shows us that Edom will actually have the Israelites in captivity in the last days. Lamentation.
Now, did you hear that? So now, he said, now the book of Lamentation says that in the last days that the Edomites will have the people of Israel in captivity in the last days. So how I said earlier, how we know who these people are through biblical prophecy, archaeology, because we can look at their archaeology in the land of Edom and look at the pottery and the artifacts that they made and see that it looked just like them. Just like if you go to China, you can look at their statues and their stuff and see it look just like the people there, right? So, it tells us that the Israelites will be in captivity in the last days to the people of Edom, right? Let's get this real quick. In Ezra's, right? 2nd Ezra 6 and 9. And it say this. And it says, for Esau is the end of the world, because he's going to be ruling in the end of the days, like the video clip just told us. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follows. Because we got next, because after the fall of Esau and Christ set up his kingdom, the Israelites is going to be ruling along with their king Christ under the Most High God Yahweh. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follow. Right? So,
to be like the other nations, and began to bow down and worship other gods, and sinned against the Most High. Thus the curses fell on them, as prophesied in Deuteronomy 28 verse 68. Unbelievable how the book of Lamentation shows us that Edom will actually have the Israelites in captivity in the last days. Lamentation 4 verses 20 to 21 says this. The breath of our nostrils, the anointed of Yahweh, was taken in their pits, of whom we said, under his shadow we shall live among the heathen. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken, and shalt make thyself naked. This is none other than Edom, the perpetual enemies of the children of Israel, who holds them in captivity in the last days. Israelite.
So yeah, perpetual enemies of Israel who hold them in captivity in the last days, right? Those people that got us off those cargo slave ships, that bought us at the auction, hold us in captivity in the last days. Let's go to, let's check this one out.
Bible verse. As you journey through these sacred words, let the stories of faith and hope guide your path. The Edomites were descendants of Esau, the twin brother of Jacob. Established in the rugged terrain southeast of the Dead Sea, Edom thrived due to its control over crucial trade routes. Their land, known for its red...
And he's being a little polite when it says their crucial control over trade groups. They were robbing people as they passed through the desert. They were robbers. They was like, you had the pirates of the Caribbean. There was pirates of the desert. There was anybody that came through, that's how it was getting down, right?
This was called Edom, meaning red in Hebrew, a name derived from Esau's preference for red stew. Having a complex relationship with the Israelites, the Edomites often clashed but also shared familial ties through their common ancestry. Over time, the Edomites faced various conquests and migrations. eventually assimilating into other cultures and fading from historical records.
Not true.
However, the legacy of the Edomites lives on through archaeological discoveries and biblical accounts, offering glimpses into their rich history and culture.
See, and that's the thing too. They would have you believe, that last part of it. They would have you believe that, they just faded off into existence. And you gotta understand, the Bible calls them a fugitive, right? Let's get that real quick, right? Fugitive. That's what they are, fugitives and vagabonds. And this is Genesis 4 and 12. And it says, thou shalt till the ground and shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength, right? So that's two. Just going into their agriculture deficiency. The fact that they're not really good farmers. They have to come up with these chemicals and pesticides and other, gene splicing to get stuff to grow, because the ground. What it says, when thou tills the ground. Let's start at 11. And now thou art cursed from the earth, which have opened her mouth to receive thy brother blood from thy hand. When thou till the ground, it shall not hence yield unto thee her strength. So that's why they're stuck in Europe, no natural resources, right? So they have to go around the world robbing and stealing and killing, right? Because like it tells us over here, here it is. Like it tells us right here, right here. Where that? And let's get it right here. Because he's going to live by the sword, right? So it's Genesis, I can read it over here. Boom. 27 and 40. And it says, let's start at 38. And it says, and Esau said unto his father, but have thou but one blessing, my father, bless me, even me also, my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. So he cried for him to have a righteous blessing, so he won't have to be such an evil, disgusting bastard on this earth, right? He says, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and the dew of heaven above. Right? So like, all right, okay, look, you're gonna get the best parts of the earth, all right, cool. Then he says, and by thy sword shall thou live. These people are violent because Esau is a cunning hunter, right? Like we read in the beginning, right? So when the clip we watched earlier, when it says that they had control over the traders that was coming through the trades, they were robbing and killing them, right, for their goods, because it says, by thy sword shall thou live, and serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou have the dominion, thou shalt break his yoke from thy neck. And that's what they have done. They have broke our power over them, because back in the day we had them in servitude. David, Solomon, they had them in their rightful position, but then they got strong and they got big and they broke out of it, and now they're causing havoc and hell all over the earth, right? So back over here it says, and hence thou till the ground, and shall not yield forth her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shall thou be in the earth, right? So they didn't go anywhere. They're just fugitives, right? And what do fugitives do? They change their identity. They change their names. They change their whereabouts. That's why they're not in Mount Seir no more, where they're supposed to be in those caves. You know, they took the fatness of the earth, like it says. Right? And it says, you jump down to 14, and it says, Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth, and shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. Right? So, and that's what's going on, because these people carry the spirit of Cain, and they bear the mark of Cain with their pigment. That's the mark of Cain. Their lack of melanin is the mark of Cain, in case you don't know. Right? And so, like I said, they're vagabonds. Right? So back over here. And get some more, right?
Zoro.com knows that every job
Malachi that most preachers quote quickly and move on from. It appears in the opening verses. God is speaking directly. And what he says is this: I have loved Jacob, but Esau I have hated. 4 words, and none of them are ambiguous. And yet those 4 words have produced more theological footnotes, more careful qualification, more anxious explanation than almost any phrase in the Hebrew prophets. Because Esau is not a stranger. Esau is not a foreign king in a distant land. Esau is Jacob's twin brother, the son of Isaac, the grandson of Abraham himself. And God said he hated him. Now, before we resolve that too quickly, before we soften it, before we reduce it to an abstraction and move to the next verse, we need to understand what it cost God to say it. Because Esau was not an accident of history, and neither were his descendants. And what happened to the nation that bore his name over the next 15 centuries of biblical history is one of the most sobering stories in all of Scripture. This is the story of Edom.
Alright, so let's get this one real quick, right? Let's get...
daughter of Ishmael.
Oh, no, not this. Let's go ahead. Now, right? So now, we hear, a couple, just a little bit on it, like, far as, like, who they are, biblically speaking. They're, descendants of, Rebecca and Isaac, enemies of God and Israel, right? So now, check this out. Oh, there's more, right? Check this out. Hear me out. We have a rabbi, ladies and gentlemen. I say, we have a rabbi, ladies and gentlemen. Rabbi Maurice Mezrahi, right? And let's see what he has to say. Who is Edom? Who is the Esau, right? Let's hear what this guy has to say, right? Now, this is out of their own words, right? Let's see what this rabbi have to say. Who do the Jewish man identifies as Esau?
The Romans.
Who? What do you say?
Hello. In this week's Torah portion, Devarim, the Israelites are positioned to enter the land of Israel. But to do so...
Now keep in mind, like I said, this is a rabbi we talking about. So, you can't no longer say, well, you people are racist and you think all white people is Esau and this and that. I mean, it's coming out of the horse's mouth itself, right? And so what we supposed to do with that, right? So, I know some of us have a hard time of listening to black people. So perhaps, the devil, the white man said it might Makes sense.
Passed through the land of the Edomites, south of the Dead Sea. The Edomites are the descendants of Edom, who is also known as Esau, Jacob's evil twin. The Edomites refuse passage, so God tells the Israelites to leave the Edomites alone and bypass them. Quote, "And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Command the people, saying, You are to pass through the border of your brothers, the children of Esau who live in Seir. They will be afraid of you. Be very careful. You shall not provoke them, for I will not give you of their lands, no, not so much as the breadth of a single foot, because I have given Mount Seir to Esau as an inheritance." Unquote.
All right, so yeah, that's where they're supposed to be living at, Mount Seir. They're not supposed to be anywhere else around this world but in Mount Seir. But they're not keepers of home, right? They believe in oppressing people everywhere.
Why is God being so protective of the Edomites? Isn't Esau a bad guy? One answer is provided in the Torah. Quote, "You will not hate an Edomite, for he is your brother." Unquote. Okay, brotherhood is worth something. But that cannot be the whole story, because our tradition paints Esau as the very epitome of wickedness. The Talmud says, quote, "Rabbi Yohanan said, that wicked man Esau committed 5 sins in a single day. He dishonored a betrothed maiden. He committed a murder. He denied God. He denied the resurrection of the dead. And he spurned his birthright." Unquote. Moreover, our tradition tells us that the Edomites are the ancestors...
Hold on. Now he's about to tell us, right? So, telling us the wickedness and the depravity of these people. Now, keep in mind, this is a Jewish guy, right? Right? And he says,
he denied the resurrection of the dead, and he spurned his birthright. Unquote. Moreover, our tradition tells us that the Edomites are the ancestors of the Romans, and indeed of all Europeans and the entire Christian world. The Midrash says...
What? He said, our tradition tells us that the Edomites are the Romans and all of the Europeans, right? That's what he said, right? And it's other sources and other history and stuff we can pull and get into, but this is a Jewish guy, right? And he's a rabbi, and he says, what he say again? Just run that back.
Quote, "You will not hate an Edomite, for he is your brother." On the epitome of wickedness. The Talmud says, quote, "Rabbi Yohanan said, that wicked man Esau committed 5 sins in a single day. He dishonored a betrothed maiden. He committed a murder. He denied God. He denied the resurrection of the dead. And he spurned his birthright." Unquote. Moreover, our tradition tells us that the Edomites are the ancestors of the Romans, and indeed of all Europeans and the entire Christian world. The Midrash says, quote, "2 orphans were left to Esau, namely Remus and Romulus. And you, God, gave permission to a she-wolf to suckle them, and afterwards they arose and built Rome." Unquote. Now
look, check this out right now. If you understand if you know the history of Rome, because like you said, Remus and I forgot the other guy's name. Let me see. What's the little punk name? Remus and Romanus, right? So now, if you understand Remus and Romanus and where they come from, now they left the Battle of Troy, right? Now, who were fighting in the Battle of Troy? The Greeks. The Greeks were fighting in the Battle of Troy. So now, if you understand history, the Greeks were around before the Romans. So now, how the Roman nation started was after the Battle of Troy or whatever, they left and then they went settled down over there, what we call Rome today, and it's because they didn't want to go back to wherever they came from. So they say, hey, this is nice. I think they got tired, of traveling. So then they're like, just we're gonna chill here. So then they, got cool with the locals a little bit. Then of course they did what Rome did, what Esau do. They unalived the inhabitants, the original Japhetic people, the original Europeans who were melanated people, right? And then they set up their Rome stuff. So now I say all of that because he said that they are all of the Europeans, and I brought up the fact because he started off with I don't know why Romus, Romamus and Remus, right? But what my point is to let y'all know that it go a little further than Romanus and Remus when you get into the history of how the nation of Rome started, because it branched off the Greeks from the War of Troy. They, it was a ship or whatever, platoon or Marata, Amarata, however you said, and they just settled on that side of Italy. And so now understand that they came from the Greeks, and dude is saying that they make up all of Europeans, right? So I just wanted that, to put that on, so we can understand that too.
The Romans and their successors, the Byzantines,
right,
dominated the land of Israel for 7 centuries, from 63 BCE.
Right, so then, one more time for the people in the back.
Tells us that the Edomites, our tradition tells us that the Edomites are the ancestors of the Romans, and indeed of all Europeans and the entire Christian world. Our tradition tells us that the Edomites are the ancestors of the Romans, and indeed of all Europeans and the entire Christian world. Our tradition tells us that the Edomites are the ancestors of the Romans, and indeed of all Europeans and the entire Christian world.
Right? That's the rabbi saying that, right? Let's get this one.
Israelites wanted to be like the other nations and began to bow down and
No, we heard that one. Let's get this.
They say that Esau is Rome, is Edom. Why is it? Reasons. Why did Esau go the way he went? Why did he choose that route? And secondly, why do the rabbis say that Esau is Rome, is Edom? Why is it Rome? And I wanted to chart the course historically and geopolitically that shows that Esau, out of Esau's loins, really did become the...
Before we move on. So now, a lot of times, like the last clip, they start with the nation of Rome, but like I said, when you do your own research on how Rome started in Romanus and Ramus, they'll tell you that they left from the Greek battle of Troy, and they were Greeks, and and that's why we read that verse in Genesis about them being fugitives and vagabonds on the earth, meaning fugitives change their identities, their names, and all that stuff. So, so it's just, so I just wanted to put that in your mind as you listening to this too. Don't forget, they are fugitives, so that's why they keep always starting with Rome instead of taking it all the way back to Greek. Because too, also, the Amalek, they oftentimes like to disassociate themselves from their other Esau family members, right? That's why a lot of times they be like, well, I'm not white, and you even have like some white people that say, yeah, Jewish people they're not white. And the funny thing too, speaking of them calling people white or not, I didn't know that some white people don't consider Russian people as white. I didn't know that. I'm like, oh wow, that's strange. But yeah, there's certain groups of white people that within themselves they don't consider to be white. But history tells us that they all come from the Greeks. And the Greeks all come from Esau. But back over here.
Of the Roman Empire, which gave birth to the Western world, and the Roman Empire also gave birth to Christianity. And everything that we read, it's so funny that this is one of the few times in the Torah that the Torah uses the physical description of one of the figures. It's very rare.
Yes.
And that tells us, I mean, even that method of telling us about Esau, about describing him, is a teaching. If the idea is that Esau had fallen prey to his physicality. He said, "Yes, I am born complete. I am a self-made man. I don't need anybody else." And the nature of him being red, and the blessing that was.
And isn't that the attitude of them? You know, I'm self-made. I don't need nobody else. They're prideful people, right? You know, and that's exactly, and it's, it's fun to listen to them talk about it. You know how Christ says, "Satan casting out Satan," right? You know, and the fact that but again, you gotta look. The information's out there. They know the truth. A lot of them. That's why the Bible says this over here, real quick. In Obadiah 1:7 tell us this. What it say? Obadiah 1:7 says. It says. And it start at 8. It says. Obadiah 1:8. It says, "Shall I not in that day, said the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom?" This guy, consider a wise man, right? He knows the truth. He knows who his people is. He know where Esau descend from, right? He knows the havoc and the hell that they cause on this earth, right? It says, "Shall I not in that day, said Yahweh, even destroy the wise man out of Edom, and understanding out of Mount Esau," right? So this guy would be considered one of the wise men because he knows what's going on.
By his father, when he went in,
and a lot of them know what's going
to
on.
his physicality, he said, "Yes."
They just
Esau, about describing him, is a teaching.
Counting on the fact that you don't know what's going on.
If the idea is that Esau had fallen prey to his physicality, he said, "Yes, I'm born complete. I am a self-made man. I don't need anybody else." And the nature of him being red, and the blessing that was given to him by his father when he went into the tent and said, and he lied. He said, "There he goes. Yaakov has stolen from me my blessing." No, you sold it.
Isn't that what they do? He stole from me, right? They call the police, say you done stole their cell phone all the time, the whole damn time, the cell phone in their back pocket, right? They be holding their phone in their hand. Sometimes you might, the people. It happens to everybody. You lose your phone, so you think, but the phone is in your hand the whole time. But hey, have you saw my phone? Anybody? Right? That's them, right? They'll have their phone in their hand, like, "Officer, he stole my phone. Arrest him." Right? He took my phone from me. Right? And that's how they was. "Oh, he stole the blessing from me. Oh, Jacob, he stole the blessing."
And my birthright, you sold it. So he's lying already. But the point is that it's important to remember that these two were twins, and Esau was the twin, and his posterity, his worldview is a twin, a bad twin of Judaism, because I'm going to say right here, we may lose some listeners. God was the twin and hit my blessing. No, you sold it. He went into the tent and said, and he lied. He said, "There he goes. Yaakov has stolen from me my blessing." No, you sold it. My birthright. You sold it. So he's lying already. But the point is that
check this out, right? And he was really actually heated about that, right? And to the point where it's still beef to this day, right? Because it says this, Genesis 27:41. "And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him, and Esau said in his heart." So he hated us because God blessed us to be his people, his ordained people, to rule this planet forever, ever. But he hated his his blessing. That's why he sold it to Jacob. He didn't never have respect of God because he hated God, right? You know, because, you know, they're very arrogant people. They think they don't need God. They think they can create their own God. That's why they're trying all this New Age stuff with, you know, merging transhumanism type stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, and it says, and Esau hated Jacob because of his blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, meaning he said in his mind, in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Well, I will slay my brother Jacob. So Esau like, you know, I ain't gonna mess with him now, but soon the day our dad died, you know, when our dad passed away, it is up, you know, because I'm not gonna try to get you now because, you know, I don't want to upset, you know, Pops and them, right? But it's on and popping. Soon as our Pops is gone, right? And these words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah. And so, you know, Esau, he's heated, you know, he's talking to his mom, you know, it was like, yo, just, you know, and he's crying and stuff, and he told his mom, I'm going to kill my brother. I'm going to kill my brother. Right, I'm gonna kill him. As soon as Dad I'm gonna kill him. Right, so he's telling his mom that he's crying like a little punk, right? And then, and these words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah. So yeah, you know, crying to his mom and stuff, right? She ain't trying to hear all that. And it says, and she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said unto him, behold, thy brother Esau is touching thee. Meaning, look, yo, your brother's real mad right now. That nigga wanna kill you. You know, he gonna do something to you, right? And she said, do comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. And that's it. It's killing is comforting to him. You know, when they get angry, you know, their emotions start to flare, to unalive something, to watch the life force leave before their eyes with their bare hands or with the strength of their hands is very comforting to them. That's how they get their solace. That's how they get their woosah, by watching somebody go, right? That's how they get it. Because he's a cunning hunter. And by the sword he shall live. Right? And behold, thy brother is touching thee. Meaning he wanted to kill you. And he do comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. Right? So she like, yo, your brother is on that with you. Because it tells us right here, and Esau hated Jacob. Right? And like the Bible tells us, he have a perpetual hatred for us. Right? Perpetual means a everlasting hatred. That's how he feels. Right?
These two were twins. And Esau was the twin. And his posterity, his worldview is a twin, a bad twin of Judaism. Because I'm going to say right here, we may lose some listeners. The church is a mirror image, an attempted image of the temple of God, and it doesn't even get near to what it's supposed to be. And the idea of being ruled by your emotions, the way Esau was, the
idea of a God that can be represented in material form, you can't get any more Esau than that.
And the bloodshed of the...
Exactly, right. You know, and what they're saying is like, what Esau influence on modern Christianity has done, has alienated the followers of Christianity to be away from God and more in tune with the lifestyle and the behaviors of Esau, right? Because Esau never respect anything of God. That's why a lot of these churches don't respect anything of God. That's why, you know, they doing all types of manner of evil inside those buildings, right? Because they don't respect anything of God, because Esau's spirit is all over Christianity, because Christianity is, whether you like it, understand it, believe it or not, is white supremacy, right? And like they're trying to say is, through Esau's religion called Christianity, he created a God that accepts you for your sinful lifestyle. And all you have to do is say, well, I believe in Jesus, though. You know, I'm on my way to this whorehouse, though, but, you know, I believe in Christ, though. I prayed before I got in the car, before I went to that whorehouse. You know, I prayed to Jesus that I make it safe to the crack house, right? You know, I prayed to Jesus, you know, as I was, you know, unaliving one of my brothers, that I don't get shot, right? I prayed to God when I went into this store to rob him, that I'm able to get what I can get and I don't get caught, right? That's what Christianity teaches you. Christianity teaches you that God is your co-defendant, that you can go do wrong and be like, oh, God, please don't let me get caught. And God be like, all right, I got your back. I'm not going to say anything. Go ahead and break into that store, break into that car. You know, I'm not looking. I'm not going to, if the police come, I'm going to reroute them somewhere else. Right? That's what Christianity taught us. That God is our co-defendant.
Christianity through the centuries is so self-evident that this is the mindset, this is the DNA of Esau. And the idea is of even wanting everything, the materialism and wanting everything very quickly. And this is really going to, I'm going to
prosperity gospel.
The idea that you can have a relationship with God that quickly, like, give me that, I want it right now. That's how you become a Christian. Well, we're gonna get letters. You become a Christian by saying the magic words, I accept, etc., 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 and boom. And most people that I know, when I was growing up, when they had these altar calls, they were so emotional when they did it. And the difference, and I'm not bragging when I say this, I always held back because I thought these people are being caught up in the moment, literally the moment. They're crying and weeping and all that, and which later made me think about how the women in the temple in historical Israel would.
In psychology, they call that mass hysteria, right? Where a group of people can get caught up in something, and it seems, you know, to the untrained, it might look spiritual because everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody all clapping and jumping and shouting, but it's called mass hysteria, right? Where something can be so, you know, catchy and so, you know, that it just catch on, and now everybody's just doing it, right? That's called mass hysteria in psychology.
The temple had fallen into disuse, only to be misused when they would go in and they would cry for Tammuz, you know. And so the point is there's nothing wrong with your heart leading you and being emotional about your relationship with God. God wants that, but it has to come from a place of first it begins in the mind. This is what drew me to Torah, is that Torah does not tell you to throw your mental capacity and your logic out the window.
Exactly, because Christianity would tell you that 1 + 1 + 1 = 1. That's what they'll tell you.
Well, you know, that's exactly. There was a thing on Facebook, because I have to interrupt you. There's an unbelievable thing on Facebook. Rabbi Tovia Singer.
Yeah.
Rabbi Tovia Singer was debating with a missionary in the street in Jerusalem, right? And he was just running around logically, running her in circles, because she couldn't possibly answer anything that he was saying. And so at one point he said to her, just like, think. And she says, no, that's the problem. Don't think. Don't think, she says. Mm-hmm. The missionary says to him, that's the problem. No, just it's not about thinking. Don't think, right? That's it exactly.
Yeah. So there are people.
And that's the thing. Christianity is the religion of slaves. It teaches you not to be a critical thinker. That's why you can say 1 + 1 + 1 = 1, you know, and they can push the Trinity when the Bible doesn't speak nothing like that, right? Let's go to Revelation 2 and 9, right? And let's go to 2 and 9. And it says this. It says, I know thy works and tribulations and poverty, because the real people of God, the real Israelites, right? Not the so-called person with this on the hanging from the side, and got the little coasters on top of their head. Not them. They're not in poverty. They own Hollywood. They own the music industry, and they probably own the nearest business near you. It says, "But thou art rich." Right? And we're rich because we're spiritually rich. And not only are we spiritually rich, like the book we read in second Esdras 6 and 9, Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning that follows, because the kingdom belongs to us, right? So we're rich because this whole thing is about to be ours. And it says, "But thou art rich, and I know the blasphemy of them that say they are Jews and are not." Right? So there's some people going around to, they're claiming to be the Jews and are not, but are the synagogues of Satan. Right? The chief house of Satan. That's what the synagogue means. Chief house. Chief house of Satan. Right? That's who these people are. Right? Let's get Christ's dear brother James. Let's see what Christ's little brother James had to say. Right? James 2 and 5 says this. It says, "Hearken, my beloved brethren, have not God chosen the poor of this world?" Right? God have chosen the poor of this world. Right? What did Jesus say? It is easier for a camel to get through an eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into the kingdom of heaven. Right? And those people, although they are not even a full percent of a people, of a nation, I said it right the first time, full percent of a people, these guys make up 0.02% of the population on the earth. But yet they have the most millionaires, billionaires per capita. Right? Because, hearken, my beloved brethren, have not God chosen the poor of this world? Rich in faith, right? That's why it says over here, "I know thy works and tribulations, but thou art rich," right? Because we are spiritually rich, right? We love us some Jesus. We love us some God. We fill up these churches every week, giving them our hard-earned money, right? Because we are spiritually rich. Nobody loves God on this planet more than us, right? We love God so much we follow any religion that seems to be spiritual. That's how much God we love, right? Instead of following our own culture and our own customs that was given to us, right? It says, "Hearken, my beloved brethren, have not God chosen the poor of this world in faith, and poor of this world, rich in faith, and heirs of the kingdom," right? Because we got next, which he have promised to them that love him, right? That's what's going on over here. Let's get just keep reading verse 10. It says, "Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil," who? Because we just read, "I know thy works and tribulations and of poverty, but thou art rich, and I know the blasphemy of them that say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogues of Satan. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil." Who is the devil? The white man, woman, and child, Edom, Esau. So we just read that they are the chief house of Satan, right? The devil shall cast some of you into prison. So we know it's talking about a nation of people, a group of people, because, I mean, I'm pretty sure if you black and you've been in America, you've been locked up maybe once or twice. I don't know, did you see the devil come and grab you and put you in prison? Or was it that dirty, nasty, stinky white man that put you in prison? Huh? We're going to do like the dog test, right? Remember the dog test? Like show a picture. Now, who put you in jail? Was it this one? No. Was it the dirty, nasty white man? Yeah. Right? Because fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison. You got to understand the word devil just means deceiver, liar. These people are the master deceivers, liars, right? On the planet. That's their gift, right? Because they're hunting hunters, right? So cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and shall have tribulation 10 days, but thou be faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Meaning stand 10 toes down. You know, so although these people is persecuting us, the Most High God is gonna got our back, right? Let's get I think I want. And boom, let's start at where I want to start at. Let's start at let's start at let's start at 68. So Second Ezra 16 and 68, it says, "For behold, the burning wrath of great multitude is kindled over you." Right? Because these people hate us, like the Bible tells us, perpetual hatred. And it tells us, "Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried, and ye may have tribulation 10 days. And that 10 days is not, literal 10 days. It's just talking about a disposition of time, a period of time that, people may be incarcerated for. And it says, "For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you, and feed you, being idle with things offered to idols." So then you locked up in the prison cells, and you trying to keep a kosher diet. You don't want to eat the pork and the stuff that we're not supposed to eat. And they forcing you to eat it, right? Because, either whether they force you to eat it, or, you have to starve yourself to not eat it. And they, how they do, they'll come in and beat you up and tie you up and force it down your throat because they don't want no lawsuit if you die. So they do that, right? If you, and the Bible tells you they're going to do that to us, right? The future prophecy. Back over here. Let's get Zechariah real quick. Okay, Zechariah 11 and 5. Zechariah 11 and 5. So Zechariah 11 and 5 says this: "Who possessors slay them and held themselves not guilty." So yeah, they lock us up in their prison cells. Our dear sister Sandra Bland, died locked up in their jailhouse, for a traffic ticket, right? "Who possessors slay them and held themselves not guilty," right? And that's what's going on. Like it says, "For behold, the burning wrath is great, the multitude is kindled over you. They shall take certain of you and feed you, being idle with things offered into idols." Right? So, they incarcerate us, and they have, autonomy over us because they're, they're captors, right? They feed us when they want to feed us, and all that stuff, right? And so, like it says over here, Zechariah 11 and 5, "Who possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty, and they that sell them," because they sold the children of Israel. That's how America, Britain, and all their counterparts got rich, they sold the children of Israel, and they that sell them say, "Blessed be the Lord." So they think that they're being prosperous and became a rich nation because God is blessing them, right? That's what they don't understand. But they don't know the Bible, and they don't know the God that we serve, and they don't know that God says this over here in Romans 9. And it says like this and like that and like this in it. Get it over here real quick. It says, what if God willing to show his wrath? 9 and 20, Romans 9 and 22. What if God willing to show his wrath, to make his power known, to endure for much long suffering, a vessel of wrath fitted for destruction, right? And that's what they are, a wrath that is fitted for destruction, right? And boom, 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 hold up. And let's get back over here, though. So it says, who possess or slay them and hold themselves not guilty, and they that sell them say, "Blessed be the Lord, for I am rich." And their shepherds pity them not, right? And so, they say like, look, we can get away with this because their leaders, their so-called leaders of the community, they on our side. You know what I'm saying? They don't care about them. They, taking a check, right? And that's what a lot of our people do. They have, sold out, the people. That's why a lot of stuff take place in our community like it does in no other people community, like like in ours. Like, you don't have liquor stores all over white suburbia areas. You don't have liquor stores all over a predominant Asian neighborhood like that, but they will put it in our neighborhoods, right? And boom, boom, boom. Oh, this is the one I was looking for. Boom, boom, boom. Verse 17. So Romans 9 and 17 says, "For the scripture said unto Pharaoh," come on, let's read this one more time, right? It says, "Whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty, and say to themselves, Blessed be the Lord, for I am rich." So they think because they gotten away with it, they became gazillionaires off the sweat and blood off the black, Hispanic, Native Indian. They think that it is a blessing from God. But they don't know that it says this, Romans 9 and 17, "For the scripture said unto Pharaoh, even for this same purpose I have risen thee up." So God built this nation to be a big, strong nation, right? And it says, "That I might show my power," to show how mighty he is. That he can take a vagabond, take a person that is anti-water and pro-lice, not pro-life, pro-lice, and put them in charge of this whole big blue marble planet, right? It's amazing that a base people, that is the greatest trick of God right there, if you ask me, to take those people and make them the hegemony. That's crazy. But that's what he did. Because it says, "For the scripture said unto Pharaoh, even as for the same purpose I have risen thee up, that I might show my power in thee, that my name might be declared throughout the earth." Right? So, and we know what happened to Pharaoh. He destroyed him. Right? So, they say, "Blessed be the Lord, for I am rich, and their shepherds pity them not." So, they deceive themselves thinking that the Most High God is not going to get with them. But he definitely is. Right? Back over here. Let's get Isaiah 53. think I want that. Let's get Hebrews, my bad. Hebrews 13 and 56. I mean, not 56. What is that? 13 and 5. Hebrews 13 and 5. It says, let your conversation be without covetousness. And that's what we should be as a people, right? Our conversation be without covetousness. We're not trying to plot and steal from one another or steal from the next man or, wanting what another person have. We're not envious or jealous, but those people are, right? That's their nature. That's how they have the spirit to go conquer the world. Like, you have to have the spirit of covetousness to be a conqueror. Because you cannot be content with what you have and go around the whole world stealing and taking everything, right? So the Bible tells us this: let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as ye have. And these people are not content with such things as they have, right? They go around oppressing and brutalizing everything, right? That's what they do. This is Habakkuk 2 and 5. Because he is a transgressor of wine, he is a proud man, neither keeper at home, right? These people, they didn't stay in the Petra, Jordan, or the Caucasus Mountains of Russia, Georgia, right? Because it says, let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as ye have, right? But these people, because he is a transgressor of wine through his philosophies and way of life, he is a proud man, neither keeper at home, who enlarges desires as hell. And hell in this context is talking about the grave. And the grave is very big, right? You know how many people died throughout the history of people, right? Think about that. Think about since the very first embryo, cell, whatever you want to call it, person stepped foot on this green planet, people died, right? And that's a lot of death. So that's their desire, to increase their habitation as big as that, right? Right? In doing so, it says, he enlarges desire as hell and is as death. Everywhere they go, they cause havoc, death, unaliving, mass pollution, extinction, animals disappearing, and little babies being eaten, right? Everywhere. It says, also because he is a transgressor by wine, he is a proud man, neither keeper at home, who enlarges desires as hell and as death, and cannot be satisfied. What did it say over here? Let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as ye have. And these people are not. For he said, I will never have leave thee, nor forsake thee. So that we may boldly say that Yahweh is my helper. I will not fear what man should do unto me. Right? So we don't have fear of these people and their violent tendencies, right? Because we understand who they are, right? And we mark them as a violent man, like the Bible tells us, right? Isaiah 42 real quick. Isaiah 42, 22. And it says, but the steeple is robbed and spoiled, and they are all of them snared in holes, right? And that's what happened to our people. We are robbed and spoiled. They are oppressors, subjugators, and we are snared in holes, meaning we are trapped, right? That word snare means a trap, right? And we trapped so much too that we even call, our way of living trapping. You know what I'm saying? Like, we in the trap. We out here trapping, right? Not knowing that trap, like on that Outkast song, that trap that you talking about trapping, you just trapping yourself into the trap, right? And it says, but this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes, right? We're trapped because of the lifestyle that we live. We think we can make it, doing it like how they did it. We know that this place is built off of criminal activity, right? We look at the Italians, the Polish, the Jewish that came over here, the Dutch, and how they criminalized everything and got rich. So we say, well, maybe we can be some bootleggers and a mobster and gangsters and run numbers and get rich too. Nah, it don't work like that. It says, all of them are snared in holes. So we get trapped in our endeavors thinking that we can get these get-rich schemes. But what happened? It says they are hid in prison houses. So then we end up making up the majority of the population in their prison houses, right? Because their laws is dedicated to capture black and Hispanic people. That's what they live for, right? It says, and they are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none delivered. So there's nobody to come and help us and change these prison laws that they got on the books. None of these laws to ease the time for, first-time felons and so forth, right? How you get more time for crack cocaine than powder cocaine because, white people use powder cocaine, so we can't be locking them up. They got a country to run, right? So, so we see these things. It says, but this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all snared in holes. They are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, meaning we are easy pickings for them, right? It's like they just wait. It's like, it's just a free meal, right? Like, we know we can catch us a nigger today, right? Because a lot of us is not keeping the laws of God. And because we're not keeping the laws of God, we are in the sight of the white man. We are in the view of the devil, right? We are in their crosshairs, exactly into their trap, because it says, robbed and spoiled, they are all of them snared in holes. That word snare is like a trap. When you go hunting for an animal, you set up little traps to try to catch them, right? And we fall for their traps all the time. We buy their drugs, we buy their fall into their little standards of entertainment and music, and all this other stuff that we fall in line because they give it to us and they make it seem like it's cool, right? And it end up snaring us in, whether it's physically, because you want to, live like how you see them people live on TV. So you out here, how them sisters, the mother and the daughter, out here robbing retail stores for Gucci bags and stuff like that, and got their little dumbasses locked up because of the entertainment, right? So we're snared in holes. They are hidden in prison houses. We make up 85% of the population of the prison. And it says they are for a prey, because meaning they hunt us. They wait for us. You be driving in your car, that police follow you for about 3 or 4 blocks, waiting for you to make a mistake, right? Then they finally pull you over for some dumb stuff. Then it says, they are for a prey, and none delivered, for a spoil, and none said restore. Nobody says, hey, let's give these people reparations, let's help them out. We've been some terrible people to them. Let's fix this situation so we can move forward. Nobody said that. But, they are cutting billion-dollar checks to everybody else but you, right? In case you missed out. That's what they've been doing, right? Revelation 3:9 tell us this. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan. So God is going to make them the synagogue, because they are the synagogue of Satan, right? They have no choice but to be the evil one. It says, behold, I will make them the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. They lie, right? They Jew lies, right? We're in the month of Jew lies. And it says, behold, I will make them come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee, right? So it's going to come upon a time where these bastards is going to kneel before the righteous man of the Lord, the righteous men, the righteous children of God, right? They're going to do that because I will make them come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee, right? That's what's going on, right? And so we got to understand what's coming, because we don't understand that, that the Most High God is a God of justice, and these people will not be left unscathed. Let's get 2nd Ezra real quick. 10 and 21. And it says, For thou seest our sanctuary is laid to waste, and our altar is broken down, our temple is destroyed. Right? And that's what they did in those days. They destroyed our temple and stuff like that. But we're gonna build it up once again. And it says, our passadery is laid to the ground, and our song is put to silence. Because, like I said, we're over here in this oppressive land. We're not able to live our full extent of quality of life and have a good quality of life and be peaceful and be happy and, without the oppression and the fear of death lingering, right? And it says, our rejoicing is at an end. The light of our candlestick is put out. The ark of our covenant is spoiled. Our holy things are defiled. The name that is called upon us is almost profane. Because they call us niggas. They call us spicks. All types of derogatory names that they call us, except for the people of God. It says, the name is called upon us is most profane. Our children are put to shame. Our priests are burnt. Our Levites are going into captivity. They took us into captivity. Our Haitian brothers down in Haiti had to fight against that mighty, mighty Napoleon army and defeat them bastards to get their freedom, right? Our Levites are going into captivity. Our virgins are defiled. Our wives are ravished. That's what they did. They took our women and did what they pleased after they unalived the men. It says, our righteous men are carried away. They took our people away, scattered us to all four corners. It says, our little ones destroyed. Our young man is brought into bondage. They took us on those cargo slave ships during the Atlantic slave trade, the Arab slave trade, the Sub-Saharan slave trade, all that, right? Christopher Columbus taking 1,000 Tainos back with him to Spain, right? That was the beginning of the slave trade. And it says, our young man is brought in bondage, and our young men became weak. That's where we are right now at this state. We have became weak to where we don't even want to fight, stand up, say anything about nothing, because we so afraid, right? We have so many weak Negroes amongst us to where we don't want to fight, and we're afraid Master gonna come and unalive everything, right? Oh, don't you say that. You're gonna get Master upset. Like, don't you go talking like that now. Why you go say that stuff for, sir? Right? There's weakness. And we gotta get out of that, right? Because the Most High God is not dealing with the spirit of fear. Let's get Isaiah 40. Let's get Isaiah 49. Isaiah 49 says, and this was going to happen in that day, because like it tells us, behold, I will make them of the synagogues of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will come and make them worship before thy feet. That's what these people got to do. Come and worship at our feet. Take them little punk-ass yarmulkes off. Cut that little bullshit hanging from the side of your head. And it says this, thy kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens shall be thy nursing mothers. They shall bow down. Isaiah 49 and 23. They shall bow down. What they going to do? They're going to bow down to thee with their face towards the earth and lick up the dust off thy feet. That's what they're going to do, right? They're going to bend down and see our little footsteps on the ground, and they're going to be so, they're going to even want to lick our little footprint after they get done kissing our feet, because they're going to be that much down in servitude, that low, right? That even after they done kissing everybody, every black, Hispanic, and Native American feet they see, they're going to want to lick the footprints as you walk away, right? That's what that means. And they're going to do it. And it says, and shall lick up the dust off thy feet, and thou shalt know that I am Yahweh, for they shall not be ashamed that wait on me. And we're not going to be ashamed in that day. We're not going to be ashamed that wait on the Most High God. Right? So the prey be taken from the mighty, or the lawful captive delivered. Right? That's what's going on. Get Jeremiah 16. Jeremiah 16 and 15. And it say, but Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children from the land of the north, and from the lands whither he had driven them, and I will bring them again into the land that I gave them unto their fathers. Right? So let's start up a little more. Let's start at 14. Jeremiah 16 and 14. Therefore, behold, the days come, said Yahweh, that it shall no more be said, the Lord that liveth, that brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. Because, we understand when Moses left out of Egypt with the children of Israel, the Red Sea parted, the Egyptians got drowned, right? And it says, but the Lord liveth, that brought the children of Israel from the land of the north. So we're no longer going to be talking about how we left out of Egypt and how God destroyed that land. We're going to be talking about how we left out of America and how God destroyed this land. But the Lord liveth, that brought the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from the lands whether he had driven them. I will bring them again unto their land that I gave unto their fathers. Right? That's what's going on here. That's called restitution. Right? Just see how that looks. Just understand how this is going down when it look like that. Isaiah 14 and 1. It says this. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and yet choose Israel. Right? That's what we read. Right? Because he said he's going to bring us back into the land of our fathers in that day. The Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and yet choose Israel. So when all hell is breaking loose all throughout this earth, when World War III is in full effect, everybody's going through what they're going through, the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them. So the strangers going to be joined with them. The strangers are the other nations, right? Who we'll call physical Gentiles. And it says, shall be joined with them. And they shall cleave to the house of Jacob, meaning they're going to, be in need of us, right? They're going to be, subjugated to us. That cleaving, just like how we're in need of America and their systems and their provisions that they have, right? So they're going to cleave to us. And it says, they're going to cleave to the house of Jacob, and the people should take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and for handmaids, for slave men and for slave women. And they shall take them captive, right? So the people of Israel, they're going to take people captive. They say they're going to take them captives who captives they were. So whoever had the Israelites in captivity in the times past, it's going to be a role reversal, a flipperoni, right? And they're going to take those people captive, right? Like it tells us in the book of Amos, the sower, the reaper, the sower shall overpower the reaper, right? And it says, and they shall take them captive, who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. That's called justice. That's called that Eddie Murphy movie with Dan Aykroyd, Trading Places. That's what that's called, everybody, right? Trading Places, right? They shall rule over their oppressors. That's what's coming, right? In case you don't know. Back over here, verse 10. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation. So we understand, the words of God. We're keeping the law, statutes, and commandments in the faith in the Mashiach Yahushua, Jesus Christ, right? Keeping the faith in the commandments. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation. So the Most High God will protect his people, because for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, right? And it says, which shall come upon you of all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth, right? So he's going to protect us in that day when all hell is breaking loose upon the earth, right? Isaiah 45, right? Let's get that. Let's get boom, boom, boom. Let's start at 14. And it says, Isaiah 45 and 14 says, thus saith the Lord, the labor of Egypt and the merchants of Ethiopia and the Sabians, the men of stature shall come over unto thee, and they shall be thine. So we're going to possess these people. They're going to be ours, just like how we got sold to the four corners of the earth. They're going to be within our possessions, right? Just like we're currently in their possessions in these different nations that we're scattered to right now. A man of stature shall come over to thee, and they shall be thine, and they shall come over after thee in chains. What? They shall come over after thee in chains. These people are going to be in bondage, in chains. Because how did we come to America? Did we come to America with passports and suitcases and shit like that? No, we didn't come over here like that, did we? How we come over here? We came over here in chains. So this is a good reversal, because the Bible says this, and the people should take them. This is Isaiah 14 and 2 again. The people should take them and bring them to their place in the house of Israel, to possess them in the land of the Lord for service and for handmaids. And they should take them captive, who captives they were. And it says, and they shall come after thee in chains, and they shall come over, and they shall fall down unto thee, and they shall make a supplications, meaning they're going to be begging and pleading for their life and kissing feet and licking dust, everything, right? Going to make supplications unto thee, saying, surely God is in thee, and there is none else. There is no God. So it's like, look, surely these are the people of God. They have the true God. Look what they doing to the nations, right? They got the whole nations in chains, bringing them all down to the land of the Lord. Surely these are the people, right? All that bull crap that we was following, stupid religions that we thought we were doing, what the heck? Like, it's no other God but this God right here, who they call Yahweh. That's what they're going to say, right? And it says, and it shall make supplications unto thee, saying, surely God is in thee, and there is none else. There is no God, right? Meaning, look, we thought we were following God, but now we saw the real power of God And we know that there is no God except for the God of the Israelites, Yahweh, right? They're going to know that in that day, right? And let's get this over here. I think it's over here, huh? Right here, Psalms 49, right? And just start at verse 6. Psalms 149 and 6. Let the high praises of Yahweh be in their mouth, and a two-edged sword in their hands, to execute vengeance upon the heathen, and punishment upon the people, to bind their kings with chains. Whoa, what did this say over here? Thus said the Lord, the labor of Egypt and the merchants of Ethiopia and the saviors of the men and men of stature shall come over to thee, and they shall be thy, and they shall come after thee in chains. What did it say? Let the saints be joyful in glory. Let them sing aloud on their beds. Let the high praise of God be in their mouths, and a two-edged sword in their hand, to execute vengeance upon the heathen, to punish their noble people, to bind their kings with chains, and their nobles with feathers of iron. Right? To execute upon them the judgment that is written. Because like it tells us, like our dear brother Peter tells us, that we shall judge the world. The saints will judge the earth. Right? To execute judgment upon execute the judgment that is written. This honor have his saints. So God is going to give us the honor to judge these people. Like how they persecute us in their court system all day long, accuse us for everything, right? That's why we have the highest exonerations here, right? Because we're getting arrested for stuff we didn't do, but they're actually guilty, right? And they will get their just punishment for the crimes that they have done, to execute upon them the judgment written. This honor have all his saints. Praise ye Yahweh. Right? That's what's cracking. Right? That's what's going on in this book. Right? Praise ye Yahweh. Right? Back over here. Verily, Isaiah 45 and 15. Verily, thou art a God of that hidest thyself, O God of Israel, the Savior. Right? So, and he is the Savior of Israel. He protects us, right? And it says, verily there art a God that hide itself, O God of Israel, the Savior. They shall be ashamed and also confounded, all of them. They shall go to confusion together together that are makers of idols. So all these people that follow these false religions and think they know what the Bible is about, think it's a whole unitarian collective thing, they don't know what's going on, right? Because it tells us this: but Israel shall be saved in the Lord with everlasting salvation. We got that everlasting salvation, right? But Israel shall be saved. It didn't say the whole world, but Israel shall be saved with the everlasting salvation. And ye shall not be ashamed. We're not going to be ashamed, right? Because we're going to know that we are the people of God, that we are the rulers, the rightful rulers of this planet, under the Mashiach Yahweh Shai, who the world calls Jesus Christ, following after our God, right? Yahweh. But Israel shall be saved. But Israel shall be saved in the Lord with an everlasting salvation, and ye shall not be ashamed nor confounded. World without end. That's that John 3:16. That world without end. Because God so loved the world. But Israel, ye shall not be ashamed nor confounded. World without end. Right? Let's get that real quick before we get up out of here. Right? Because people be like, John 3:16. Right? That's what people say. What they say, yeah. So let's get it, right? Everybody's favorite verse. Even if you never read the Bible before, you know what this say. For God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son. Whosoever believe in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Right? Sounds beautiful. Right? But you got to read the context of chapter 3. He's talking to Nicodemus, an Israelite, and they're talking about the future of Israel. right? In this conversation. And we just read, because you got to understand, Christ was not freestyling like your pastor do every Sunday. Christ read the old, what we call the Old Testament. And if you pay attention to the New Testament, you can see that Christ oftentimes quote from the book of Isaiah, right? It can almost be safely to say, this is just my personal opinion, he probably was a big fan of Isaiah, right? From the stuff that he teaches. So it says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, whosoever shall believe him shall not perish, but shall have everlasting life. Like it says over here, but Israel shall be saved in the Lord with everlasting salvation, and shall not be ashamed nor confounded, world without end. Right? So we are that world that's going to be saved, and at the end, and going to be that world that's not confounded, because we're going to have the truth. Right? One more to prove it before we get up out of here. Acts 2:22. And it tells us like this and like that, and like this and like that and like that, And say this, like this and like that. It says, start at 21. It says, it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord, right? That's what we everybody say, right? But we got to understand the danger of Christianity, like we was playing in those clips earlier, that those Jewish guys was talking about. I don't know if they're Jewish or not, or they could just be Christian, whatever people, or whatever I don't know what they is. But like they was stated in the last video we watched, that how the spirit of Christianity that Esau curated is, well, just believe in Jesus, right? That's it. You good, right? The laziness of that spirituality, to think that's all you have to do to please God, just have belief, right? And it says, and it shall come to pass that whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be saved, right? Close the book, pass the collection plate, that's it. Close the doors. Close the doors. We all gonna leave out at the same time. Close the doors, right? We need $1,000. Right? It says, and it shall come to pass, whoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be saved. Right? Ye men of Israel, hear these words. What did it say? Ye men of Israel, hear these words. That's who it's talking about. That's who it always been talking about. That's what it means. Right? Like we read in Isaiah 45. But Israel shall be saved in the Lord with everlasting salvation. Ye shall not be ashamed nor confounded, world without end. Right? Ye men of Israel, hear these words. Jesus of Nazareth, a man approved of God among you by miracles and wonders and signs which God did by him in the midst of you. Now talking to the whole world, because ye men of Israel, hear these words. In the midst of you, as yourselves also know. Right? So salvation for the Israelites, death and destruction to Esau and their counterparts. Right? Thus said the Lord. Thus said the Bible. That's what it is. Shalom. Peace. We out. Until next time. We out.